Hailey Reese, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm so excited that you are here, and I hope that you are having an absolutely fantastic morning, afternoon, or night, whatever it is for you when this video finally reaches you. Today's video is one that honestly is so weird for me to film and make, but also is one that I've been so excited to share with you guys. If you guys have been on my channel for a while, you guys would know that in the beginning of my YouTube channel, my Grandma Reese, and I told so many stories and experiences from her childhood, from my childhood, and from our lives that validate that we are literally souls having an earthly experience, and that when we do die, it is not the end. My grandma would talk about how when her grandma died, there was an angel that came and basically gave the news to her, and we just both had so many earthly experiences that were beyond our world, if that makes sense. And if you have been on my channel, you guys would know that Grams sadly passed away this year, and while it's been probably the hardest thing I've had to go through in a very long time, it's also been, I don't know how to word this, because okay, when Grams was alive, before she was even ever sick, before there was any reason to ever assume there would be a day that she wouldn't be here. Well, what I mean by that is a day in the foreseeable future that she wouldn't be here. Obviously, we all live and die, but prior to any reason for me to believe that she'd be gone anytime soon, we would always talk about if one of us goes first, we need to make sure to give one another signs. That was just our agreement. We both are very spiritual beings, or we were. I am, she was. This is still so weird for me to explain and talk about, but we always talked about how I would always tell Grams, if you die, I want to know. I want to hear from you. I want to see you. I want to talk to you. And I promised her the same thing. It was kind of like our thing. And when Grams unexpectedly passed away, before she passed away, I would talk to her when she was there. She was really sedated. She wasn't able to speak. She was on a ventilator. This is not a sad video, by the way. This is a really exciting video for me to film in the sense that Grams has come to me. But I would talk to her and I would say Grams, actually for the first while, I never talked to her while she was sedated about giving me signs, because I was so optimistic and so hopeful that she'd pull through and she'd be okay. But when they gave us the word that basically we'd have to make the decision to let her go if we care about her, that's a whole other thing. We're not going to get into that, but I remember I was so devastated, and I was holding her hand at one point and I said, Grams, you know how magical butterflies are. Show me butterflies to know that you are okay. And I said, but beyond that, fulfill the promise that we've always talked about and show me that you're okay. But beyond that, remind me how much more magical our souls are and our existence is beyond just this physical experience. And she didn't give me any physical signs back that she would do so, but I just knew it in my heart. And so when I found out that she passed away, I remember, oh, by the way, if I haven't said so yet, in this video I'm going to tell you guys all the different ways Grams has visited me. Now, there's a million ways that she's visited me. There are so many things. If you guys want a series of Grams visiting me and all the different things that I get from her, I'd love to share that with you, but I'm going to give you guys a few of the really big moments that just prove to me that she's still with me. Even though I always knew it, seeing the signs, it hits different. So I remember when we got the news that we didn't make it to the hospital and that she passed away, we all kind of did our own individual saying goodbyes, even though it was just her body at that point. Her soul had already transitioned to heaven. Tyler and I went up alone, and I hadn't told anybody yet that she'd passed. And I saw her body there, and I was kissing her, and I started singing Dancing in the Sky to her. And as I left the hospital, Lana, the medium that I've shared with you guys, who's a very good friend of mine now, texted me saying my grandma and grandpa were dancing together. And that was like my first sign, because only Tyler knew that I'd been singing Dancing in the Sky to her in that exact moment. And he was supporting me and driving and doing all of that. So that was like my first sign of like, oh, Grams is showing Lana like I'm dancing to Hailey singing. And in the coming days, there were a lot of little signs, but in the moment, I wasn't really receiving them because I was still grieving and it didn't feel right and it didn't feel okay. But then as like the spring turned to summer, I went outside to garden by myself for the first time, which Grams and I have gardened since I was a little girl, but I've never like went to tackle like weeds and things by myself. I've never done that. And so I remember I went out to the store and I bought like all these different tools to like take weeds out of the yard and to properly garden. And I was caring for a new hibiscus tree and just like so many different like gardening things that if Grams had still been here, she would have been so proud of and excited about. And so I remember this one day I went to the gardening store and I bought gardening gloves for myself because Grams always had all these things, but I didn't have them. So I bought my own gardening gloves and I bought all my own like gardening tools. And I remember I was in the backyard and I realized how hard gardening weeds actually is. They are a pain in the, like, they are not fun to dig up. And I was digging up like 20 of them. And I remember I had this giggling moment, even though I was still grieving and I was so sad, where I dug up the plant, or the plant, I dug up the weed and I fell over. And I started half laughing, half crying, thinking like, if Grams was still alive and Tyler FaceTimed her and showed her what I was doing, or if I told her, she'd be so proud because she loved gardening. And then all of a sudden, a butterfly like flies right in front of my face. And I remember thinking like, oh, that could be a coincidence. So I said, Grams, if that's you telling me that you are proud and you are here and you do see it, like, let me know. And all of a sudden, a second butterfly came by and the two were like dancing together almost in the air. And then I was like, is this a coincidence? Like, I couldn't tell. I was so stunned. And a dragonfly, like, flew by. And I was like, that's not a coincidence. That is my grandma, and she's with me, and we're gardening together right now. So that was like a pretty cool moment. And I'll do a whole video on this, but like Lana, like Grams went to Lana right away, told Lana a million things that no one could have known. Like I knew Grams was on the other side, but it didn't make it like any easier. And so I remember there was one specific occasion that I was extremely sad before going to bed. And the thing that made me the most sad was that Grams and I had like a significant height difference. I'm 5'7" and Grams was like, I think 4'11". I'll have to ask my mom. I'll put it on the screen here to confirm with you guys like how tall she was, but I know she was under 5 feet. So we had a very significant height difference. And all throughout my life, our hugs were very special. They were filled with love. They were very special hugs. And I remember as I got older, like granted, we lived together for a while, so I'd be like, bye, Grams. She would always say, like, I miss, like, your sincere hugs. And so I would always try to make it a point to give her sincere hugs. And then one day after she passed, I was in the bedroom just, like, thinking about how I would never get to give her, like, a sincere hug like that again. Like, how I wish I could go back and never give her, like, a bye, Grams, like, give her, like, a real hug. And I started crying, and I was a disaster. I was a mess before bed. I was just so sad. And I I remember crying to God and the universe and Grams and just saying, like, I'm so sorry. I just wish I could hug you again. And then that night, I had the craziest dream. So if you're new on my channel, or maybe you just haven't seen the videos where I've said this before, I am a really, really, really vivid dreamer, but I also am a very aware dreamer. It comes from like certain things in my childhood where I was taught to like know when it's a dream and be able to wake up and get out of that dreamlike state, if that makes any sense. This particular dream, I did not know that I was dreaming, which is so crazy. Like, for me, I normally always know when I'm dreaming. And I remember in the dream, there's a whole other aspect to it, but I was in an antique shop and XYZ. But then I came out of it and I was at the top of a hill, and at the bottom, I saw my grandma. And she was smiling, like so big. And I ran down the hill to her. And in the dream, like I said, it didn't feel like a dream, which is unusual. It felt real. And I saw her smiling, and I ran up, guys, and I just like hugged her. Like the tightest, most like loving hug you could give somebody. I was just holding her. And when I pulled back from the hug, I told her, I said, you scared me. I thought I was never going to get to hug you again. I thought you were gone. And I was like, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad I'm hugging you. And she looked at me and she said, Hailey, I am gone. And I was like, but you're right here. And she said, Hailey, I died. And it was like a shock. It was like my soul was remembering it. And that's why when I woke up, I knew this was all beyond like a dream. It was beyond our physical experience. It was my soul and hers connecting. And she told me how much she loved me. And she told me how she was there for me. And we hugged. And I told her how I loved her. Oh, now I want to cry, but I'm not going to. It's just such a, like, it's so beautiful how much bigger this all is than what we think. But I ended up waking up and I was like, oh my gosh, I really think I just like connected with my grandma, which was so cool. And then a few weeks later, I was really struggling emotionally. And I kept saying to my mom how I felt like in my house there was like this stagnant energy. I was just struggling. I was sad. I was unmotivated. I was just like, oh, it was a lot. And I had another dream. And in that dream, a whole bunch of things were happening. But I walk outside and I see my grandma. And I run up to her and I hug her. And again, I tell her how much she scared me. Like, it's so weird, guys, how in my spiritual state, I don't recognize that she's gone. It's like my subconscious realizes that she's never truly gone. So when I see her like that, I'm like, oh, I was so worried you're gone. And I hug her and she's still there. But in my physical state, I realize she's gone. I don't know if that's making sense to you, but it's like my subconscious feels the relief because subconsciously I know that she's not gone. But I hug her and she said a lot of really sweet personal things. And then she told me how she's going to try to be more present in my house and to help me clear that energy and to be there for me. And yeah, it was just insane. And then I had another dream that was crazy. And in the dream, I was basically battling like my own personal demons and energy that people are projecting onto me. And Graham showed up and she was like, Hailey, you gotta fight it. I'm here for you. And I said, Grandma, you know you're dead, right? And she flat out goes, okay, Hailey Marie, I'm well aware I'm dead. You don't have to tell me every time you see me. And that gives me goosebumps to even say that, because I woke up and she'd helped me in that dream to work through things and to eliminate people's energies and stuff that are not of my own. But it was so crazy for her to be like, Hailey Marie, that's my middle name. Like, I know. Like, you don't have to tell me every time I see you. And so throughout all of this, Graham's talks to Lana throughout the day to tell me things, and it's things that no one could know. And so I called Lana one day and I started talking about my dreams, and I said, is it just what I want to hear and see, or is Grams really coming to me? And she flat out goes, oh, that's your Grams. And she wants to talk to you even more, but it hurts you to open up because even in your subconscious, it's very difficult right now for you to accept that she's gone. And that's so true. But it's just been so freaking cool to have my Grams still communicating with me, still encouraging me, still being there for me. It's been really interesting, and I think what makes it harder for me to accept it is that Grams and I used to talk about these experiences, and now like Grams is the center of my experiences. Like I'm just scraping the surface on experiences that I've had with Grams since she's crossed on. So if you guys want me to talk about it more, I definitely will. But it's been really cool and also sad, but more importantly, like validating in that Grams has crossed on, she's okay, and she's with me all the time. And yeah, so I just wanted to film today's video and share this, like a few little stories with you guys. If you guys want more in-depth, like individual stories, I have so many, and I'm sure, Grams willingly, there will be so many more. But that is some experiences that I've had with Grams since she's crossed on. So I would love to know what you guys think. And that is basically today's story time. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. I was a little under the weather for the past few days, and I'm finally feeling good. So there will be no more missed videos, God willingly. And I can't wait to enjoy the rest of the year with you guys. But I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. With that being said, my loves, do all things with kindness. And until next time, I love you.